Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Knighthawks media availability ahead of our game against Las Vegas on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time in Las Vegas, Nevada. So, as we get ready for that one, we've got with us today, following the trade deadline, General Manager and President of Team and Business Operations, Dan Carey, Interim Head Coach Randy Mearns, and Team Captain Dan Coates. First things first, we'll start out with Dan Carey as we kind of get into this media, just Randy Mearns coming in this week as the interim head coach, kind of what led you to that decision ultimately for this team?
Yeah, ultimately, tough decision leading up to that, but felt my experience with Randy and working with him for a number of years with Lacrosse Canada and just knowing the reputation that he has and his ties to the Knighthawks and the Rochester community, felt like it was a really good fit. And you go through certain names and individuals, and there's a lot of great people out there, but as soon as his name kind of popped into my head, it was just a like, I smiled. I just was excited that the opportunity might be there, and I think a guy that I know, the players once they got to know him would feel the same as I do. So, it was a quick process, and it was something that excited and grateful that he was able and wanting to pursue this.
Awesome. And Coach Mearns, for you, I mean, obviously the day that it's announced, you're supposed to be calling a game between your two former colleges that you coached, and obviously in about a 24-hour span, your day and week kind of flips around. Just kind of, can you break down that first call and into the next rest of that day with Dan?
Yeah, maybe the world works in mysterious ways. It was kind of surreal because that next Tuesday, as you said, the Canisius Golden Griffins who were going to go play St. Bonaventure, and obviously had 19 years at one institution and seven at the other. So it was kind of surreal at the timing. It was over the last probably 7 to 10 months, just kind of being involved in the lacrosse space, doing a variety of things, and kind of building and trying to grow lacrosse. I was going to go watch a couple area high school teams, to help the next generation improve their skills. Maybe they get recruited. Maybe they play in the NLL one day. Like that's the stream of these young lads. And I got a call from Danny, and we kind of had a little bit of a chit chat, and he informed me that he was going to be making a move, and whether or not I would be interested in, like, who wouldn't want to be interested in the NLL? I mean, it's the best league in the planet, best players on the planet, and I felt so fortunate and humbled and kind of stunned a little bit of actually even having the conversation at that time. And then that just kind of rolled over the next 3, 4, 5 hours, and it just felt like a right fit for me. I know many of the players on the roster. Danny Coates and the leadership group. I have a strong relationship there, and being a former Nighthawk and playing in the Blue Cross with Reggie Thorpe and Timmy Sudan and Dewey Jacobs, and having some success, it just felt like the right thing for me to do, and what an incredible opportunity. And again, I thank Dan and the Nighthawk organization for this opportunity, and I'm going to put 100% of energy and passion into this thing, and I'm excited to kind of hit the ground running.
Awesome. Thank you, Randy. Appreciate it. Coatsy, for you, obviously it's hard in the first part of the phone call that you end up having, but when you hear that your college coach is going to be your new head coach for the NLL, just kind of what goes through your mind with the initial thoughts and preparations for that experience?
Yeah, it was certainly a whirlwind, earlier this week, but just super happy for Randy. He's a guy that I certainly think deserves this opportunity. Just such a knowledgeable person for the impact he's just had on me, and I know I'm just one of many players, but he's just an extraordinary coach. He's a mentor. He's a friend. Guy who cares about his players. I think his coaching style is really suited for the pro game, and He knows when you need a kick in the butt. He knows when to put your arm around you. He has a really good temperature on a locker room, how the team dynamic works. So yeah, we're excited to have his experience and his knowledge and his leadership leading this group of guys.
Definitely. All right, we'll open it up to questions now at this point. So put your hand up for me and I will assess as we go down the list. But we'll start out, Brendan. If you want to take it away with questions for any of the three, you can take the lead and I'll watch for hands and I'll text an order into the chat for that.
Great. Thanks a lot, Chamberlain. Mearnsy, I know you and I talked through over text messages over the last couple of days, but publicly, let me congratulate you on being the Knighthawks head coach. This is going to be really cool. First question, I mean, you get hired on Monday, you have first practice on Tuesday. Can you kind of walk us through that point of you're putting together a practice plan, executing a practice plan while actually meeting your team for the first time? Can you kind of walk us through what that was like?
Yeah, well, I think it's about the group, it's about the staff and relationships, and it was a pretty 24-hour, 48-hour whirlwind, and my main objective, and I really leaned on Kyle Calais and Matt DeLilla, and along with Dano's guidance and talking with Danny Coates and the leadership. My objective as we kind of went through, that Monday night was quite honestly watching the Las Vegas Desert Dogs play and, watching tape on the Knighthawks, and kind of went through the day on Tuesday, trying to collect my thoughts, started to reach out to a few of the players, talk to Dan out through the day. Obviously this is a real quick shift. And my objective, Brendan, was just really to, really start developing relationships. I'm a relationship guy. I kind of feel like I'm a player's coach. And my main objective was to really get to know the players. Some of them I do know and have some good relationships with, obviously. There's others that I've, interacted, and there's guys that are on the roster that I've gotten to watch calling games, and they're so talented and they're so good and they're so athletic, but I don't really have a personal relationship. Like, hey, do you have a family? Are you going to school? What are the things that you're doing? And to kind of build that type of bond, in a relatively short term, was really one of my main objectives from Tuesday. And it was I thought it was a great practice. It was it was tough for everybody, myself included, kind of coming in. You're nervous, you're anxious. Mike Hazen is a personal friend and a teammate, and but just first class. I had the opportunity to talk to him on Tuesday, and so we had to get through that first kind of initial. Okay, we're finally together, and for me, I just tried to let the guys know that I'm here for them, and that I'm going to try to provide as much energy and as much guidance and as much passion that I can muster, so that we can try to continue to evolve and then really focus in on getting ready for Las Vegas. And so it's been a very, very collective effort. The staff has been great, walking me through different things, as we're getting ready for this journey, and I'm ready to go.
And Coach, I know you talked about your time with the Bandits doing games on TV and radio. I know you watch the games. I know you watched the Knighthawks. You and I have talked about Knighthawks games. What from your outside view before you took this job, what did you like about this current Knighthawks team?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I mean, and I guess I would even kind of step back, even Dano and Coatsy, and in my conversation with Mikey Hazen, it's a special group. When you watch it, I mean, it's athletic on the D end, solid goaltending, you offensively, just the size, the athleticism, and the the teamwork that they do from an offensive perspective. Like, all the pieces of the puzzle are there, and so having this opportunity and kind of looking and saying, okay, I'm coming into a group that's already established. This group knows how to win games, And for me, it's not coming in and saying, hey, we're going to run 39 new plays and those types of things. I feel it's more of, okay, let me get to know what's been working, what's not been working, kind of dive into the film, start building relationships. I had a great conversation with Ryan Smith yesterday, and my conversations tend to be like 5 minutes, you kind of think, but everybody that knows me, that's going to turn into like a 45-minute conversation. And some laughs and some great talk about lacrosse and IQ and family, and I feel like developing those special bonds will help carry this forward. And I'm kind of excited in one sense that we're kind of we're on the road, because that'll allow me some time to get some personal time with a lot of the guys while we're on the road, because you're kind of afforded that opportunity. So it's an incredible group, and to actually be, Brendan, on the floor. I've gotten the opportunity to call games up in the loft and the whole bit, but to be on the floor and watch the stick work and the athleticism and the grit and the grind, and through some of these different drills that we did, it's like unreal. Like when you're just up and at it live, and I'm super again grateful, but this is a team that can win a national championship, National Lacrosse League championship, and that's the objective. But at the end of the day, we got to take it day by day. Everything's going to be building. It's all a living, breathing document. And then as we kind of prepare and get into the game, and it's just shift by shift. It's loose ball after loose ball, and you got to continue to take the little things, to heart, and the margin of error of whether you win, whether you lose. In the National Lacrosse League, it's an inch. It's an eighth of a second. Whether you're there or whether you're not, whether you cover it, whether you're there for the ground ball or the loose ball, and so we know what to do. Now it's we just need to continue to build and continue to execute, and we got the group to do it.
And Coach, you've sent a lot of your former Canisius guys, your former Bonnet guys to the National Lacrosse League who are current players. What was the reaction of those guys when they found out that their college coach is now in the league coaching? Well, a lot of them coaching against them outside of Coatsy.
Yeah, it was pretty surreal. It's being in the college game for me was trying to understand what a young man's dreams were. Academically, socially right fit, but then lacrosse specific. Like, hey, are you really trying to get to the show? The NLL, and through a lot of perseverance and a lot of hard work on their own rights, a number of guys have been able to kind of take that step, and I've gotten to watch them grow and watch them play, and and all of them reached out, along with like a lot of people, and it was pretty trippy, to be honest with you. And then, but in my mind, I'm like, I was talking to Zach Belter, was one of the first guys that had reached out, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk to you because that might be tampering right now. I don't know. I don't know. And I say that in jest, but he was very, very congratulatory and excited for me, and it means a lot because like that's a relationship, and to take the time and to call, and so it's going to be an interesting kind of metric because now I'm going to be coaching against them. And maybe that's the full circle, that kind of comes around. So it was great to hear from them, and but at the end of the day, they're going to be on the other side of the ball, and it's we're trying to win and they're trying to win, so we're just going to focus in on the Knighthawks.
Great, thanks, Marcy. Coachy, just from a player's perspective, what was practice like on Tuesday for you guys, knowing that you guys walked out of the Blue Cross Arena Saturday night with Mike Hazen as your head coach, and then you walk into Tuesday practice with Randy Mearns as your head coach. What was that like from a player's perspective of you guys all going through that transition?
Yeah, I think I alluded to this earlier, but there was certainly a lot of emotion from us as players. Obviously, Randy talked about Mike and just the impact he had for us. And I've only been here for 5 years, and Mike was here for, I think, as a head coach for 16 years, and then I want to say something along 10 years as a player. So I think just human nature, change is hard for everybody, and he was just kind of the staple for us. And I think at the end of the day, we felt responsible as players that we let him and Patty O'Toole down. So I think there was some anxiousness. Like there was a lot of phone calls player to player. We understand that this is a business. When you step back and you look at it, do we feel like we're underperforming? Yeah, I think so. We feel like we're more than capable of putting together a winning product. So I think there was some anxiousness going into Tuesday, but as soon as we kind of got there in the locker room, I think that was the medicine that we needed. We just felt as one. I thought Randy did a hell of a job setting the tone beginning of the practice. You can feel his energy. I think guys were excited. That he cares about this game. And I had a lot of good feedback from the players too. So it was certainly great to hear that.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. And then Dan, just one question for you. At the trade deadline, you brought in Blaze Reardon, who's a local Fairport guy. Can you talk to us about how that went down and how important it was to bring in a guy like Blaze Reardon onto this team?
Yeah, given Philly's situation and where they're in the standings, I think obviously they made a few additional moves, but that was one where talking to Paul Day, it seemed to make sense for them and for Blaze as well. I think he's at a point that he wants to compete, and Philly's in a tough spot when it comes to the standings. From my standpoint, having a guy that's local is a bonus, right? That's definitely something that adds to it, but as a team, as a staff, we kind of looked into it and felt like that was a situation where it could help us, right? And he's a finisher and he plays a different game than what we have, and we love the guys that we have on our team. And you've got Brad McCauley, who's been injured, and Graydon Hogg. So as far as lefties, creating that healthy competition isn't a bad thing, but he's moving closer to home. Everything I've heard is he's an amazing teammate, and some of our guys have had the opportunity to play with him in the NLL as well as the PLL. So it's never really an easy decision, so to speak, but that was one where it seemed to make sense, right? And we have what I think is a world-class offense, and there's a little bit of inconsistency there, and maybe having him as a veteran guy and a guy that can help with a bit of a voice when we're still fairly young in our experience with that whole offense. So we've got some guys that are just great teammates, quiet, do their thing, and they're you can rely on them, but I feel like, once he gets comfortable with this group, having another veteran presence voice that can help when we need it. So, there's a multiple reasons why I felt like he was a good fit, but one that, it was hard to pass up when that opportunity came.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Thanks,
Yep.
Chamberlain. I'm all set.
Thanks, Brendan. Adam, take it away.
Thanks, guys. Coach, again, I know we spoke earlier this week, but congratulations. I guess just a quick one for you, considering the practice this week, and you've kind of touched on it already. What are some of the key takeaways, key positives, and maybe some things that you noticed in practice that you want to work on with the team as you get comfortable with the group? Oh, you're muted, Coach.
Well, there you go. It's another learning experience. I better get used to doing that, apparently. But to be honest with you, like I didn't have anything to compare it to, right? I did NCAA, field lacrosse, and while I was, watching from afar and broadcasting and those types of things, always stay in touch with the game. It was really a first time experience at this level to actually be at an NLL practice. And what my takeaway of leaving was and Danny Coates already hit a little bit of this is you get to practice and guys are in the locker room and guys are kind of active and you can feel the bond amongst the players. That was the first thing. Like this is a tight team. Like you can just feel that sense of it. And then practice started and. And again, I relied on Kyle and Matt. They've been here, right? I'm coming into a journey, and so I connected with them, and we had a good conversation. I said, hey, for this first practice, I'm really going to lean on you. What kind of drills we got to sit? We talked about some of the things that we kind of feel Vegas might do. So let's develop a couple of drills around that. Let's get up and down. Let's make sure it's high intensity, and let's dial the sticks in And I just asked the guys, while we were doing every drill that we would do it, just do it to the fastest of your capability. Like put it on a line. Like don't take don't take a second off. Because if we can continue to build that, and that's just always our habit. Those are the things that are going to make a difference in a game, in my opinion. And so I thought it was an engaged, athletic, high intensity practice. We were able to talk a little bit about design, went through all the different, functions of the game, transition, obviously, power play, man short, those types of things. And all the while, for myself, I'm observing, in terms of, personnel and again, kind of getting to know what's been going on and then to build from that, right? This group's already been here. Like this is a solid foundation, and so it was really an opportunity for me to just learn and meet people and get their perspective and really kind of get to know them. So then as we're going through this week, it's obviously been busy, but it's some phone calls and it's more phone calls, it's film and obviously you can see the energy. I'm kind of getting pumped up because now we're talking about it, and now we got Vegas, and we're going to take a flight out there, and we're going to try to prepare our guys to the best of our ability, and then we're going to go compete. And I feel like every game, I mean, every game's a playoff game, and everybody's fighting for lives, and I feel like we'll take that sense of urgency as such, and I think our guys are going to be ready to go.
During these last, well, almost 12 months now that you've been kind of getting back into the box game and being around different communities, helping out in the youth game, one of the things that you've been doing is helping the Bandits youth program. When you heard this news, did you have to break it to those young kids and be like, look, there's a rivalry here. I can no longer be part of what you're doing in Buffalo. But in all seriousness, though, knowing that you help the youth movement and that's been such a part of what you do in this game, do you have plans beyond what you're doing with the Knighthawks to help grow the game in the city of Rochester?
Yeah, absolutely what that looks like. I quite honestly don't know. Obviously, right now this focus is on the Rochester Knighthawks. Um, this game is at its infancy. I still feel like there's more and more kids playing. Box lacrosse is continuing to get introduced more and more, and having the opportunity to be part of that winter league, with grade 5, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8. It was an amazing experience. And when you ask a young guy that's in grade 5 and in this case he's a Bandit fan, right? They're the kids that are living in Buffalo and they're working on their skills, and you say, hey, like, who's your favorite player? And they got a guy, and say, hey, well, what's your dream? And it's without question, like, I'm playing for the Buffalo Bandits. That's what they want to play in the NLL. And I always felt like if you believe in an overall sense of what the kids are dreaming about, they're all not going to get there, but it's that push that keeps on pushing it forward because they're thinking about it and they want it and they're asking for more. And I'm looking forward to being able to bring that to the Rochester community. They already do a tremendous job, obviously in Rochester, and I'm just going to be another conduit to help continue to build lacrosse, and I'm excited for that opportunity.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Coach. Dan, just a quick one for you. When it comes to, I know that Randy and I have spoken in the past, and I know that he helped out with the U20 team in Jeju, Korea. You were busy with the Nighthawks, and you guys had kind of reconnected over the summer. When you saw the success of what that U20 team did and how Randy was able to impact that team and his continued growing presence in the box game now, when it came time to make this decision for a coaching change with the communication that you guys have been having over the last 8 months or so, did Randy's experience and success in those cases put him kind of front of mind?
I'd say it's more who he is. That helps, but he's had success at every level. And my first experience with Randy was as a player and at Canisius, and was only there for a year. And it's a little bit of a different situation for me. But since then, I think anybody that that has played for him will kind of say the same thing. He just, he's got just that contagious personality that you want to be around. And there's never a dull moment when you're around Mearnsy, and you're always learning something. So getting a chance years later to help with the team that went over to Israel in 2018, and then he was I was the GM for Team Canada 2023, and he was part of that staff as well. And I think there was like an opportunity for him as a mentor for a lot of us. And for a guy who had been involved with Lacrosse Canada for so many years, it was important to have him involved. And then this summer being the GM for that team, and knowing that I had a responsibility with the Knighthawks and had to stay back and trying to do that job of being a GM from afar. And again, a lot of it's built in before you actually leave, but knowing I wasn't able to be there and had to watch from home, having Randy there to support the guys and be there for whatever needed to be done, which again, once you're kind of boots on the ground, it's not always like, hey, this is your responsibility. It's going to be a bunch of different things, and sometimes you're thrown for a loop. And I knew, he's the type of guy that can handle that stuff, and just being a good guy to have around. So, I think just everything, all experiences I've had with him and any interaction, and it's more, everybody else as well with his reputation. I think just, he's got that kind of engaging personality, and it's all genuine. He's just a genuine guy, and you see how much not only the game of lacrosse means to him, but people mean to him. And I think again, our guys deserve to be around good people, and everybody we've had has been a good person. And to me, we're just I'm grateful for his acceptance of this opportunity, and knowing that our guys, hopefully they make the most of this, and I truly believe that they will. I believe in this group, and I trust everything that we're doing. And it's exciting for me to see him have this opportunity as well, as a guy that has done a lot for me and others, over a long period of time.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Dan, and try and get some rest. It's been a busy week. Dan,
Can you see that in my eyes? Is that what you're saying?
I can't, so that's good. Dan,
Thanks.
just one for you here. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about Blaze coming into the lineup. You as the captain of this team, and we spoke at the last press conference. What is it about Blaze that makes him, in your opinion, fit so well into this roster, and what do you expect of him and the role that he's going to play?
Yeah, I think Blaze is just his finishing in tight is something that we're missing. Obviously, Connor draws a lot of attention on that left side, and then T-Mac and Green Hog, and then Brad McCauley also adds some different elements. But we saw a practice the other night. He's just like automatic inside, like from an area of, it seems like 8 feet around the crease. He's got a nice touch around the net. Works really good without the ball too, right? And you kind of look at our offense between Smitty, Lanch, and Zeddy on the right side. He doesn't need the ball to have success. And I got to play with Blaze a bit in the field game, and just know he's a great leader as well. He's a great teammate, so I think he's going to fit in our locker room very well.
Perfect. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great game this weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it. Spencer, take it away.
First one for Dan Carey. This is a business in the NLL, but there's also a human aspect to it. You've worked closely with Mike Hayes and Pat O'Toole since 2019. How hard was it to have a conversation like that with them?
Yeah, I'd say it's the worst part of the job. Patty was a teammate of mine and won a couple man cups for him, and with him in Peterborough, he, sat next to him in our locker room, and, learned a ton from him as a young guy that's trying to figure out his, pro career. And, yeah, I know how good of people they are. So that's always hard. Again, I think from my standpoint, the decisions that I have to make that's part of this role is I have a collective group that I have to make decisions what's based on what's best for everybody, not just one or two people. So as much as it hurts, and I don't want anybody to feel bad for me, because that's my job. And ultimately, what hurts the most is it means a lot to those guys too. So now you're taking something away from them, but what comes with that is another opportunity for somebody else, and I'm tasked to do what I think is best for our ownership, our fans, and I think just as important, which is the results part of it, is our players. So knowing that they might not all agree with everything that I do, but I hope they trust me in that, and I feel like we have a trust in our whole locker room and in our group that we're all willing to do what needs to get done to push this team forward. So it sucks. It's hard, but ultimately, willing to make the decisions what I think is best for the organization as a whole. And sometimes it's a more of a challenging decision. Some of them are easy. This was not an easy one, but felt like it was the time to do it. And we think that we have a championship contending team here, and we're underachieving, and ultimately, this is now a fresh opportunity for us to get back on track.
Thank you. I got one for Mearnsy. As somebody who's currently here at St. Bonaventure and was in the press box on Tuesday, you were the talk of the town.
Well, hopefully I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Actually, I was supposed to be going to that game. Obviously, different pressing issues were upon us. But the best part about it is, and again, in some sense, kind of going through, getting, let go, change of leadership. You go through those types of things. I've experienced it. I think you live long enough, you have all these different experiences of success and the other things. But I guess it was a couple of weeks back when I actually went back to Bonaventure for when they were playing Robert Morris. And it was awesome, because I got to see administrators and reconnect with relationships and parents and the players themselves. And, because I want them all to do well. And again, it's just all those connections that you build and you get to help and mentor and learn from. And I feel, if you have that kind of positive outlay and that mindset, things just kind of happen. Like it just kind of evolves, right? And at the end of the day, specifically from a lacrosse standpoint, like it just continues to build. On those two high school or excuse me, collegiate teams, there's more than a few of those guys that coach. They're already giving back to the Pee-wee, or excuse me, the U11s or the U13s, and they're involved, and they want to get to the NLL, and some want to get to the PLL or play for a national program. And it was excited, being there that first time. And I was bummed that in one sense that I wasn't able to go because it was on my radar screen. But when this call came from Dan, life just shifted, and here we go. We're going a whole nother direction. I'll have that one on the backside. There'll be more time to come to get to a Canisius Bonnie game down the road. So I'm okay.
And one for Coatsy. The one thing that's missing from your NLL career is a championship. How meaningful would it be to hoist that trophy with Coach Mearns leading the charge?
Yeah, I'd say that that'd be a dream. And it's funny because if you would have told me this last week, I never would have thought of it. But the reality is Mearns leading or our team now, and if we get to do that this May or early June, it'd be a dream come true. He means a lot to me as a person, and to be able to maybe hand that off to him and kind of gives you chills.
All I got. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Spencer. And thank you to everyone for joining us for Knighthawks media availability. Be sure to tune in to ESPN Plus as the Knighthawks take on the Las Vegas Desert Dogs at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, March 15th, this weekend coming up.